Hey, all. Hey. How's it going tonight? Actually, send a tweet. How you doing, buddy? And we're live. Learn from my mistake. Wearing a red shirt tonight. And then this green shirt. Some fading out nonsense. Give others a few minutes to join and we'll get started. If you're out there, sound off in chat. Oh yeah. I still haven't figured out how to tell how many people are actually watching. I'll jump on Twitch real quick. It says I'm live. Is that on your channel? 2 people. Right now? Now that's interesting because you guys see something different than what I see. So let me sort this out. You know, that's what you should be seeing. There we go. Do I leave the stream title blank, or does an account need to be a certain size before it can be filled? I guess I don't know what that means. I went out to look at the stream, and it looks like currently 4 people watching. So I'm not sure what that means when you say filled. By the way, tell me if the music is too loud, or if it's not loud enough. I'm trying to cover up Star Wars, or not Star Wars, Star Trek, because my kids are downstairs watching Star Trek: The Next Generation, obviously, because it really is the only Star Trek. And so, I got them started young. I feel like that's a parenting win, if you ask me. Drink of tonight is we're back to fresh salt water. Stream goes live. There's a title for the stream and what game the streamer is playing. This one will probably be just chatting. Well, let's see here. I'm looking at Twitter, or not Twitter, Twitch. I don't know. I don't see a title. It says I can edit. Oh, I can't enter a title. Oh, hang on just a second. Getting interruption from a child. Yeah, what is it? What is it? You knocking?
Yeah.
Come in. Yeah, right now. What?
Is this yours?
Yes, looks like mine. Alright, thanks. Alrighty, we're back. That was the oldest coming in to see if the shirt he was holding was his shirt or mine. It gets weird when your oldest is old enough to wear your clothes. It's a little odd, you know what I mean? So we'll set this to Ansible. Let's fill it out. Here we go. Done. Okay, so I set a stream title. Alright, see a few more join in, so we're gonna keep going and see if we can make some progress. it is just interchangeable. And it's a little weird. So he's not quite my size. He's skinnier. And so like when his shirts end up in my dresser, you know, I pull out and I put on this small t-shirt and it just doesn't work. You know. Meanwhile, all my shirts end up in his dresser and I'm like, where the heck is my stuff? Raza, how you doing, buddy? So tonight, I didn't quite get it set up, but you can see I'm in the process of actually I'm gonna stick this thing into a Git repo out of my GitHub, so I'm never gonna make this horrible mistake again. I didn't quite get it set up before the live stream, but I'm gonna get this taken care of, because that was just last week was just not cool. So speaking of which, so when I ended the stream last week, it was not cool. It was not good. It was just dumpster fire. It was bad. But anyways, 2 people independently sent me the code for the stream, and that people have been typing out. So Clandestine, and I don't forget the other person's name, but just pulled me up on Twitter. It's like, hey, it looks like you dropped something, and just pasted all the code in, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't even believe people were typing that out with me. But that's just awesome, and thanks to you guys all for being awesome. So yeah, that was good. So anyways, let's actually finish this. Yeah, okay, so our stuff is there. I don't have a swap file this time, so when I save, it actually saves. So where we last left off, oh, another job interview. Kidjo, congrats. Group does IT for restaurants and stuff, so driving and simple work, like the sound of that. Simple work does sound good, doesn't it? So I can't tell you the number of times that I thought about one of my hobbies. If you follow me on Twitter, you probably know that one of my hobbies is woodworking. I can't tell you the number of times that I've thought about just ditching computer work and just building cabinets or something like that, because it's so fulfilling to work with your hands and things like that. But in your case, you get to drive around, you get to see your clients. That's great. So, and I have to admit, one thing that I love about my job is I actually get to work with the clients directly. It's not like this abstract thing where, you work for a 50,000 person company and you're just cranking widgets, and you never get to actually interact with the customer. And that's, people need that, and the world needs that. And that's, I'm not throwing shade on those jobs, because those jobs are super important. And I worked one of those jobs for a lot of years. It's just that in the consulting world, I actually get to work directly with, the paying customer. And that's always really, really nice and really rewarding. So hopefully you get to, experience some of that. If you're actually driving around and doing IT work for restaurants, you actually get to work with your clients. That's pretty cool. So, okay, let's actually get down to it. When we last left off, we had built some Ansible code that you see here for creating various directories in our home directory, which is currently home.json. And so I have my config directory, and all those directories got built. And when I lost the file information was when right about at this point, about at this point, we built out dot files. We built out the code for doing symlinks for our dot files, and I was getting ready to actually start doing debugging on this and see if I can make this work. So that's where we last left off. That's where we are now. If you are brand new to the stream, I see 13 people on. So if you're brand new, Timmy Cook, how's it going? What you're seeing is we are in the, I don't know if I'll call it the last stages, but coming up on the last stages of actually building out an Ansible playbook to configure our Arch virtual machine. So the Arch virtual machine that I have running is, seriously, let's see if I can bring it up here. I don't know if you guys can see that. Yeah, it's, seriously just an Arch VM that's just running on VirtualBox. There's nothing really spectacular about it, but the reason why we're doing this exercise is because building out virtual machines, especially in IT, is a common occurrence. And granted, you can't just build it out once and install the packages that you want and stuff like that, and then take a snapshot. And lots of orgs do that, and that works fine. However, I like repeatability, and I like to be able to stand up a new virtual machine and configure it the way I want to, but not actually have to install the packages and remember where all the config files go and remember which files to use and blah, blah, blah. It's just a huge pain. Oh dear. Hacking Dave. I'm going to go with that's probably not Dave. That's probably Justin. So pretty sure that's not Dave because I don't think Dave would be on my stream. So if that is Hacking Dave, hey buddy, how's it going? You'll have to say something. You'll have to prove it and say something that only Dave would know. If you do that, then oh shoot. All right, you said something that only Dave would know. Anyways. We are. Anyways, we're building out our Ansible virtual machine, and again, doing all this for repeatability because Ansible is amazing, and quite honestly, we use this at work all the time to build out our various red team stuff, and it's incredibly powerful. Ansible is just a great configuration management tool, so that's where we are right now. So. Get rid of that line. I think that line was just carryover, so we're going to save that. We don't want to record a macro. We're going to save that. Dave, if you're still watching, this is Vim. It's going to be hard, buddy. I know it's a long road, but everyone starts with Nano, and Nano is a great first step, man. Serious. Anyways, we run our playbook with the Ansible playbook command, and then we're going to run what's called arch build. It's called arch build. I'm in my .files directory. Yep. So Ansible playbook arch build. Yeah. And remember that we've already done a bunch of stuff in Ansible, right? So we've already installed the packages. We've already built out corporate policy. Oh my gosh. We've already this guy right here, ladies and gentlemen. Can I ban people? Hold on. I gotta sort this out. Can I ready the ban hammer? I can't. Shoot. All right. So remember, we've already done a ton of stuff. So we've already created all these directories. We've already installed our Arch repository helper. Yay. We've already installed a bunch of core packages. We've already done all this stuff. And in Ansible, you don't want to do this. Like, if something bombs in the playbook, you don't want to have to run it again and again and again, right? Because stuff doesn't need to get reinstalled. I don't need to reconfigure the directory. It's just going to throw a bunch of errors, right? So what do? You add a bunch of tags. Okay, and so the tags that we added down here, you can see tag, we have .files and symlinks. And so all I want to do in this case is before I have the .files and folders tags assigned to this task, which creates the directories, but the directories are already created. So I don't want to run .files because .files runs both, and as you can see, you can have one tag assigned to multiple tasks, and that's really great for easily grouping tasks. And if you're having trouble visualizing this, just think like labels in Gmail. You can just or tags in any note organizer. That really is it. And you just separate them with a comma, and away you go. And that's super helpful. So we're only going to specify is it tag or tags? I think it's tags. You specify the tags parameter. Might be tags. We'll figure it out. And then we're just going to do symlinks. Okay. So we have an error: conflicting action statements, file, and tag. That's because it's tags. So this is actually. And it will do them in order so they do not try and do symlinks first. Yes, that is correct. Yep. So that's actually a very good question. Yes, the playbooks run in order, top to bottom. However, that's obviously going to be dependent on which tags you select. If you don't select any tags, yes, top to bottom execution. Okay. So this is an interesting error, and I want to call this out, and I don't want to overlook it because an error like this can be confusing. All right, and let's actually talk about it. So you see down here it says conflicting action statements, file, and tag. All right, so what's actually happening here? Because this isn't an action statement, so what's going on? Well, what's happening is that the action module that we're running right here is file. Okay, however, down here tag does not exist. It's actually tags. I misspelled it. So what does Ansible think is happening? Ansible thinks that I had that tag is another action word. Okay, and that's obviously incorrect. I simply misspelled tags, but the issue that is important to understand is that for errors like this that can be a little confusing, just kind of taking your time and thinking about how Ansible thinks about the YAML that you're seeing is a good exercise. Okay, because again, YAML in this case, YAML is processed by order of spaces, and spaces are important just like it is in Python. So if you're a Python person, then this should be very straightforward, because if you screw up your indentation in YAML, you screw it up just like you do in Python. Okay, so let's do this. He's still watching. I can't believe this. Did you write a bot? I swear you wrote a bot. I don't know. There's no way you're still watching. Anyways, so let's do. Let's change it. So as another exercise, let's change this to tags, which is correct. Okay. However, we're going to indent it. All right. So we're gonna have a misplaced indentation, and let's actually see what happens. Okay. So it says error while loading YAML did not find expected dash. All right. So what is happening in this particular case is that Ansible is saying, hey, this really should be another task, but tags is correct, but it's not where it needs to be. So what I'm expecting you to have is another task ahead of it, which would be something like okay, something along those lines. All right, so in this case, taking a step back from the Ansible errors, and believe me when I tell you, if you can get over the indentation problems with YAML, and when I say it's not really a problem, it's really just a way of thinking. If you can get over the indentation issues with YAML and kind of just get your head into understanding how Ansible actually processes a YAML file and how YAML is structured, once you get through that, it is the world opens up, particularly when it comes to not just Ansible, because loads and loads of frameworks and technology use YAML. And so this was quite honestly the hardest thing for me to learn. But once you learn it, then it is smooth sailing. All right, now you're just like, all right, what module do I have to use in order to do the thing that I want to do on my remote host? Okay, so we have that saved. We're using the right tags. We have the right indentation. Let's see what happens. Okay. So stuff ran, but I got a bunch of errors. So now let's actually dig into the error. Now you can see, remember, green means that the task ran successfully, but nothing was changed. Orange means the task ran successfully, but something was changed. And then red means the task did not run. Okay, so in this case, my tmux file was not copied over. And the reason why it wasn't copied over is because it already existed. And Ansible is smart enough to know, hey, let's not just burn through the bandwidth and recopy the file when we don't need to, okay, because the files are the same. But however, ZSH wasn't there, or ZSHRC was not there, so it did get copied. And then my init.vim file did not get copied, refusing to convert file to symlink. Oh, that's interesting. I've never actually seen that. What do I do, Jack, as a day job? I love when people call me Jack, and I don't know why. I explained probably a couple streams ago the reason why I chose the handle that I did. My real name is Jason. However, when I developed the Curious Jack handle, it comes from a long time ago when I was on IRC, just a little guy on IRC. The handle that I chose was Curious. And I always like the name Jack, and Curious Jack sounds better than Curious Jason, and so I went Curious Jack, and that really is it. However, everyone, like people pull me up on Twitter DMs all the time, even though, like in Twitter, it says my full name, Jason. People pull me up and they're like, hey Jack, how do I do this or that? I don't know, I always thought that was cool. But anyways, what is a day job? I work as a red teamer for a company called TrustedSec, the best company in the world. And I'm not just saying that because Dave is watching. But I do offensive security assessments for clients. So same thing professional wrestlers get when they yeah probably, some dude in the street, I'm trying to think of a professional wrestler. All I can think of is Ric Flair for some reason. Undertaker. He was the guy I always chose in the WrestleMania video games. So probably just call off for that guy. But anyways, so yeah, I get the pleasure of The Rock. Yeah, I don't know why I couldn't think of it, but yeah, I get the pleasure of hacking into companies with authorization, of course, and then writing up a lengthy and comprehensive report about how we do that, and then the companies go off and fix all of the holes. Hopefully, that's the plan. All right. Want to be red teamer? Awesome. Another red team stream. So you know what's interesting? Yeah, you watch Flangvik, and Flangvik's awesome. Flangvik does. He really gets into some really cool C# stuff like persistence and stuff like that. I get really jazzed about infrastructure for some reason, and I don't know why. I just love it. It's something that is, occupies my free time, and I like building things, and so I do this in code, and that's all that this is just we're just doing this in code. We're building infrastructure in code, and for me that combines things that I love doing because I'm a builder at heart, and so I like writing code, and I like putting things together, and so that just lends itself to infrastructure. I've always been drawn to it, and it's something that I always enjoy. So there you go. But yes, red teaming is talking about a truckload of fun. And yes, Flangvik does work at Trusted Sec. We got some amazing people. Sometimes I wake up and I just pinch myself. How does this even work? Okay, let's see if we can actually sort this out. Alright, so no such file or directory. Okay, so we got one. And then refusing to convert from directory to symlink. Why would you refuse to convert? Ansible loop. Alright, let's actually take a look at this last one. So, refusing to convert. Is this a permission issue? Size 32 state file UID. Does the file not exist? Destination. Okay, so it's refusing to convert on my init.vim file. So let's go to my .files repo and just make sure that file is there first. ls nvim. Okay, so init.vim is there. Is the config directory for nvim there? ls.config. Oh, aha. Okay, so in my folders, it looks like I forgot to create the init.vim folder. So let's go up a little bit and config nvim. Looks like I did. However, for some reason that folder does not exist. Let's rerun folders and see if it gets created. Folders could not be found because of my .files. Try that again. Okay, interesting. So it says config nvim is there, so I'm probably missing something. 0x Paul, first of all, thanks for joining. What we're building is we are building an Arch Linux virtual machine, and we're using Ansible to do it. So building out all of the config, copying over all my .files, installing all the programs that I want installed, and basically I'm just doing this. Truthfully, hackers are lazy. That's just God's honest truth right there. However, I translate that laziness into a desire for automation, which means I don't want to do the same thing over and over and over again. I build a lot of virtual machines for testing, and so, there you have it. I could just take snapshots, but why do that? Why you can't take a snapshot? It's great, but let's say you trash your snapshot. Let's you corrupt it. All right, how many times have you foobarred Python and the Python environment that you're in, you're like, forget it, I want to start over. Okay, and speaking of which, we can fix that with PyEnv. But anyways, so how many times has that happened? Like, no, forget Python because Python is amazing. Let's pick a trashy framework, Ruby. All right, how many times have you tried to install Ruby with like Our Vim or something, and it just, oh my gosh, it's hideous. Like it just blows up. Your stuff doesn't work. Metasploit doesn't launch, and you're stuck in like bundle install hell, right? So what do? You want to rebuild because you're a sane human being, and you don't want to have to, just troubleshoot Ruby. It's like the stuff nightmares are made of. And yeah, what about so? If you were on my stream like 2 weeks ago, you heard me rant and rave about Go. Go has some amazing practicality, but I don't know. Anywho. Anywho, I'm not just gonna start trashing frameworks except for Ruby because Ruby's trash. But anyways, so the mvim directory is in config, isn't it? ls, where am I at? cd config. Okay, so mvim is there. So I'm obviously doing something really stupid. Humdir config dot config slash nvim slash init dot vim. That looks correct to me. Yeah. Nvim is what we're working on. Home JSON.files. Yep, nvim init.vim. Destination home JSON.config nvim init.vim. That is correct. As far as I can tell. Sim links. Oops, just out of curiosity. Give that. Okay. Refusing to convert from file to symlink. That's an interesting problem. And ls config nvim. Yes. My init.vim file is there. Interesting. Was it? Oh shoot. I know why. Because the file was already there. And it's not a symlink. Yep, that's an actual file that I created. Yep, that's a file that I created. Edit, config, nvim, init. Okay, so I did this to make my life easier. So what happened? Ansible refused to overwrite. That's what's happened. Pretty straightforward. So what can I do? I can just trash my init.vim file because I want my real file copied, or we can try and see if the file module up here that we're working on, if the file module takes a force parameter, which if I was a betting man, I would say it does. So let's switch to our browser and have a look. If you're looking for Ansible modules, again, go out to docs.ansible.com and you can see all of the modules that they have. It's truly incredible. The Ansible documentation is second to none. Highly, highly recommended, and quite honestly, it is one of the things that drew me to Ansible to begin with because, and here's a huge thing, if you're out there and you're watching this, all 15 of you, and you actually write documentation frameworks, please, for goodness sake, do this kind of thing right here, where you actually give a bunch of examples on how to use your stuff. That's really it. It's cool and sexy in the hacker community to go out to GitHub and drop your proof of concept, and that is cool and it is sexy. But if you write a tool or a framework or something like that, do the world a favor and actually give examples on how to use your thing, because that's incredibly helpful and it gets the rest of us up and running really quickly. So Ansible, in this case, lists out examples for all kinds of stuff. So for the file module, we specify the path, the modification time, and I'm pretty sure I saw force. Force the creation of symlinks in two cases. The source file does not exist, we'll appeal later, or the destination exists and is a file. So we need to unlink path and create a symlink to the source file and place it. So let's try that. Let's try creating. I remembered my scene. Did you catch that? Remember my scene. So let's try setting force to true and then refiring that. Alright, cool. So we got two more done. My init.vim file got copied, or symlinked I should say. So if I actually, okay, cool. So now we have our init.vim file that is now symlinked into my .files repo. Don't want to copy the file, I want to symlink the file, and the reason why I want to symlink the file is because that way all my files are stored in the same place, and if I make a change, I can easily commit that to Git. I don't have to copy the file from one location back in my GitHub repo and recommit it and that kind of thing. This is just a much more efficient way of doing it, at least in my opinion. So, and everyone's got their own way of doing their own .files, and that's cool. This is the way I do it, and I I like this way. Okay, so let's see if we can sort out this last error. I'm trying to copy my pi.zsh theme file into user share on my ZSH, and then no such file or directory. So let's see, does in my .files directory, ls.files, is it omyzsh? Yeah. Okay, pi.zsh-theme. Okay, cool. So I'm guessing that omyzsh is not installed. Maybe it is. User share no tab complete. That's a pretty good sign. Okay, so ZSH is not installed. So let's actually install ZSH. Okay. I think I had that, let me save this. I think I had that in AUR. Okay, so pretty sure I saved it. However, I did not rerun it after my crash last week. Okay, so let's rerun that, and let's use the AUR tag to make sure that omyzsh-git gets installed. Ansible playbook. Yeah, arch build, and then tags AUR. Alrighty. This should be installing on my ZSH. I have yet to try Fish Shell. Anyone tried that? That's supposed to be the latest and greatest. If we have a look at Fish Shell, it's supposed to be pretty awesome. User-friendly command line, there we go. Supposed to be pretty awesome stuff you can do with it, but I have never played with it myself. I don't know, I've heard a lot of things about how it's, up and coming and that kind of stuff, but I've never really monkeyed with it too much. Still installing. PowerShell versus Bash. You mean as a shell or as a... by the way, welcome cyber attacker. I mean, like as a shell or as just a platform, or be a little more specific. If you're just talking for personal use, okay. So for personal use, I generally prefer Bash. It's not that I've actually written a lot of code in PowerShell, and PowerShell is awesome. However, one of the reasons why, one of the reasons why I generally prefer Bash, and when I say Bash, what I generally mean is Linux in the case of, in my personal case, because I use Linux as my daily driver. But one of the reasons why I prefer that is because when I worked on Windows, I was essentially doing most things in WSL and stuff like that. So from my standpoint, there is nothing that manipulates strings and text files as efficiently as Linux-based utilities. It just doesn't exist. PowerShell can't come close. I'm sorry. And I've done a lot of manipulation in PowerShell, especially things like XML files and stuff like that. There is just nothing that can touch it. The various utilities for Linux are fantastic. And here's the thing: you can put all that on Windows, and it's fine. And you can run all of have all of your good Linux stuff running on WSL or WSL2, and that's fine. But because I run Linux as a daily driver, then that is most definitely my preferred shell. However, I also have PowerShell installed on my Linux machine, which what a time to be alive. PowerShell is useful for internal network enumeration. Yes, it depends on specifically what you're trying to do. So if you're on a Windows network and you have if you're on like a target host, you've compromised somebody's machine, then you're going to have access to PowerShell. And then PowerShell is very useful, of course. However, much higher likelihood of getting caught by an endpoint product or an endpoint control EDR. Most EDRs have very, very good PowerShell detections. So not all of them, and a lot of it depends on how the product is configured. But truthfully, you can some PowerShell is innocuous, but if you fire up like PowerView or PowerSploit, you're going to get caught instantly. So there's pretty much detections for all this stuff now, which, depending on your point of view, is good or bad. But if you write custom PowerShell, generally speaking, it's you can get away with quite a lot. But if you're doing things like running virtual alloc or create remote thread ex or stuff like that, things that are highly profiled from a defensive standpoint, you're going to get nailed. So it's generally better to stay away from that. I personally don't use a lot of PowerShell in my testing unless I am actively testing the client's defenses and the client has said something like, hey, make noise, and I'm like, I can make noise. And so, then I run like the, PowerShell Bloodhound ingester with -c all and spray the network with all kinds of stuff. So, why bug hunters claim to call themselves red teamers? I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, I guess, if I had to speculate, there's kind of this illustriousness, surrounding red teaming. And don't get me wrong, red teaming is fun and I think it's sexy, but, at the end of the day, I spend the majority of my time on engagement in Microsoft Word. So, how sexy is that? It's not. But it's very rewarding, it's very fulfilling. So why they call themselves red teamers, I don't know. I don't know many bug hunters. I don't do any bug hunting myself. Doing reports, yes. Yes, doing reports. Exactly. So, for anyone who, anyone wants to get into, pen testing or red team or things like that, I will have a real world chat with you about what that means. Because it's not all just like, finding 0 days and, exfiltrating sensitive data. In fact, you rarely exfiltrate data because in most cases you shouldn't. You don't, let's say you find a ton of social security numbers in a client network. What are you going to do? You're going to take them and put them on your shabby Linux box? No, that's a bad idea. What you should do is take a screenshot, redact all the data, and then put that in a report just showing, proof of execution or proof of compromise. But should you be exfiltrating data? No, I think I've had like 2 clients ever that have asked me to actually exfiltrate a genuine data extract. And believe me when I tell you, I went through some crazy security measures in order to protect the client data once it left their network because it was successfully exfiltrated. So, client's like, hey, can you do an exfil test? And I'm like, are you sure? Because I think it's going to work. And they're like, I don't think it's going to work. I'm like, it's going to work. I have an SSH connection to your machine that is undetected. And they're like, well, we're going to detect it. I'm like, okay. And I SCP'd it off. And I was like, did you catch it? And they're like, well, no, you have to do it first. And I'm like, all right, okay. And so, save the file to encrypted volume, shred it all, immediately, once that's done. And so, I mean, but the truth is that almost never happens. Never happens. And quite honestly, we don't want the liability. It's just liability. So, and you see, you guys got me rambling now about red teaming. You wanted to get into red teaming? Oh, man. Everyone who's watching this stream for Ansible is like, man, he's going to go off about red teaming, which is fine. I can talk about red teaming all night, so this is what I do. You want to get into red team, but you don't know where to start. Well, I actually just wrote a blog post about that on TrustedX website, but for getting into like IT and stuff like that. I don't know where you are, what your situation is, but generally the best certs in the industry are probably put out by Offensive Security. So if you really just want to get started, I would go with a cert called the Offensive Security Certified Professional. You're 15 years old. Well, thanks for joining the stream, man. That's great, and good on you for wanting to get into it. That's fantastic. What I would recommend. So, hang on a second. I'm gonna put a link in chat because I got just the link for you. Hang on a second. .com, and then it should be the latest blog post out there. I actually just wrote this because as you're proving, it's the number one question that I get asked, and it's not even close. It's not even close. The number one question I get all the time is, how do I get into either IT or InfoSec or that kind of stuff, and where do I start? Here we go. Oh, dang it, Rozzy, you know what? I did all this work. I'm posting it. Thank you though, appreciate it. So, totally. But yeah, check that blog post out. That actually, I just had a conversation with a young man, about your age, and he wants to get into IT, wants to get in InfoSec. Got a lot of passion and interest, and that's all great. However, you need a little bit of direction, and so I would say find what you're interested in. And I blogged about this because I can't stand it. Oh, it drives me nuts when I hear the conversation taking place, and it's like, well, what's your passion? What are you passionate about? And you don't have no idea. You have no idea what you're passionate about. No 15-year-old knows what they're passionate about, except maybe Fortnite. Like seriously, like to put that kind of pressure on someone and say, what are you passionate about? You have no idea, right? You don't know what you're passionate about at this point, but you know that you're interested. I'm interested in Hack the Box. I'm interested in getting into red teaming, but like what part of it? Is it just like doing the actual hacking stuff, or what about defense? A lot of people get jazzed on that. I get to do some defensive work, my job as well, and I love it. I was a defender for 10 years, and so that's also very rewarding. So don't look at red teaming stuff and just being like, it's so sexy, I just want to get shells all the time. Because let me put it to you this way: getting shells is probably if you're lucky, 1 to 2% of all the time you spend on an average engagement is that moment when a shell comes in and you're like, I'm the king of the world, right? And then it's over because you end up getting caught like 15 minutes later. So is it sexy? Yeah, it's great, and it's a ton of fun, but put a little bit of forethought into it. And I think you'll find that there's some good stepping stones you can take before you get to that spot. Because believe me when I tell you, red teaming specifically is emotional, and most people who want to get into red teaming don't understand this aspect of it. It takes an emotional commitment to spend 12 weeks of your life trying to compromise on that work, and it's not just a job at that point. You're up at night thinking about it. You're losing sleep over it. You're like, man, if I just ran this command instead of that command, maybe I wouldn't get caught. And that kind of stuff that'll mess with you if you're not prepared for it. And so that's normally why, especially at TS, you can expect to do some pen testing before getting into red team. Pen testing is like, 1 to 2 weeks. You're not necessarily worried about getting caught too much, and you're really you're looking for vulnerabilities. You're trying to generate remediation work. And so, so that's really a better place to get started. But honestly, the best pen testers, seriously, the very best pen testers were sysadmins, in my opinion. Bar none, they were sysadmins. So, 0xpog, do try to involve myself in the TS Discord, but most members seem knowledgeable. I hear you, man. I do. And one thing that I can tell you that would help is that when I was younger, I don't know how old you are, but when I was younger, I would say in my 20s, I had major self-confidence issues, like seriously. It was crippling at times. And I'm not saying that's where you are. I'm just trying to relate to, what you're saying. And honestly, the thing that you need to do is to speak up and not, and this is going to sound hard. Okay. Don't be afraid of asking what you might think is an ignorant question. Seriously. Doesn't matter what it's about. All right. If somebody just jumps on you and they're just this, a total, just a jerk about it, then, honestly, what you can do is you can at the Trusted Set crew in the TS Discord, one of us will jump on them. Don't worry about that, okay? I would so much rather interact with someone who asks genuine questions and comes from a place of just wanting to learn. It doesn't matter what the question is. Be like, Jason, what's Linux? Doesn't matter what the question is. It doesn't matter how obvious you think the question is. Just ask it. And don't be afraid to ask it. Even though you're worried about an answer that you might get, or you're worried about, what you think someone is going to say, don't worry about any of that stuff. Don't worry about any of that stuff. All right, just throw your question out there, inject yourself into the conversation, and here's the thing, all right, if you're just getting into it, because this is important, let yourself get corrected, all right, because if there is a specific industry, that we do not need more ego, it is in pen testing and red teaming. Okay, there's a truckload of it. It's always cancerous. Don't worry. Don't go down that road. All right, I'm going to save you like a career's worth of, bitterness and people not liking you is seriously let go of the ego, ask the question, let somebody answer you, and if you say something wrong, that's fine. It's fine. Be okay with being corrected. I guess is what I'm trying to say. And you'll learn. Like one of my favorite Twitter tricks of all time, and this is how like I'll generate followers on Twitter, is I have a formula. Seriously, I do. So my formula is I come across something that I think is awesome. All right, say a command. I'm running a command on Linux. I'm like, this command is amazing. I never knew about it. I think it's great. Okay, and I think that this command could save some people some time. So here's my formula, and I'm not kidding. This is 100% true. I take a screenshot of the command doing something, what I think is cool, and I put out a tweet of like, this command does this thing. This is awesome. And then here's how to use it. Here's a screenshot. And then I wait. And here's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for all of the silverbacks, just the old aged Linux beards to jump on me like, no, you're using sed wrong. You should be piping from awk and you blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, so here's the thing. In that moment, and I'm over 40 years old. I've been doing this for a long time. In that moment, I could get all flamed up and, I could get all haughty about it. But what I do? And I'm like, that's amazing. Like, you put yourself in a position to learn, and you'll never be disappointed. You'll never get upset. Let someone correct you. And so I just let Twitter correct me. And what happens? I learn awesome stuff. So, you get the likes and the retweets, and then somebody will jump on and be like, actually, here's a better way of doing it. This just happened to me yesterday, or the day before. I never knew about cheat.sh. I never knew about this. But apparently, I can curl, probably HTTP, is it HTTP or HTTPS? Cheat, I think it's cheat.sh, ls. Yeah, holy cow. I never knew that until yesterday that I could send a curl command to cheat.sh, and with the command that I want to know about, and then it's going to come back with examples on what they do. I had no idea until I tweeted out something yesterday about, or it was the day before, something like that, like all the stuff that I always have to Google, always, like perpetually. And I got 2 amazing pieces of advice. So for example, I can never remember to save my life what the parameter order is for creating a symlink. And somebody put out there, the parameters are the exact same as the cp command, the copy command. So and I know cp, copy source to destination. And I was like, I never thought about it like that. And I'm just sitting here, and I always get it wrong. I get it wrong half the time because there's only 2 parameters, right? So I get it wrong half the time. The other half I get it right, and I think I'm amazing, and then I forget again. And now I know it's ln-s to create a symlink, ln-s source destination. I had no idea. And now I know about cheat.sh. So the point that I'm making, make super long way to answer your question. Number 1, ask the ignorant question, because I guarantee you there's other people that are in chat thinking the same thing and wondering the same thing. And if you ask that question, if you put yourself out there and take a chance on being ignorant, you'll also be seen as a leader. And that's important. Okay, so ask the ignorant question. Don't be afraid to put out there the knowledge you have and let someone else correct you. Seriously. And because you will learn, and as long as you keep your ego in check, you will learn. And that is an amazing place to be, because I got people throwing decades of Linux experience at me. It's incredible how freely people share, how freely people share on the internet, because they want people to think highly of them and to think that they're awesome. And so what happens when people share that awesome stuff? I reply back and I'm like, you're awesome, and I genuinely mean it. Because you just taught me something that I had no idea, and no amount of Googling would have helped me, because I wouldn't have known what to Google. And so, anyways, there you go. It's just, you got me preaching at you. I forgot what I was working on. What is this? What is it? Ubuntu? Is this an Ubuntu VM? Shoot, we're in Arch. Okay. Alright, I'm back. Stop asking good questions, you guys. No, Dave, were you on the whole? You were not on the whole time listening to this whole thing. Listen to my diatribe. Oh my gosh! Oh, it's great. Do I? Oh jeez. Is my ZSH installed? Do I have locate installed? I don't have locate installed. I think it's in user share. Oh my ZSH. All right, cool. Okay, so we got our stuff there. Oh my ZSH is now installed using AUR. By the way, I have not the only things that I've installed using the package manager in Arch, which is Pacman. The only things that I've installed is Ansible, NeoVim, obviously, and OpenSSH, because we're SSH in. Those are the only two things that I've installed using the actual package manager. So on Arch, the package manager is Pacman. It's just like, you know, APT in Ubuntu or Debian. Okay. So we have Oh my ZSH installed, and again, that's the beauty of using this, because now I will never forget again. I'm just going to run the playbook. I'm going to get a VM the way I want it, and Bob's your uncle. Okay, where were we? What is your preference for AUR installer? I use Yay. Honestly, I'm not sure it matters much. And by the way, here is the, we actually have Ansible code for installing and prepping Yay. Because I don't want to remember this every time. I don't. This is where, you know, snapshots kind of break down, in my opinion. Is it done? Yeah, but you totally forget. The awesome thing about YAML is that the code is very literally self-documenting. It truly is. grep name arch. Where am I? Oops. Grep name arch build. So we have all of our tasks. It is seriously quite that simple. So as long as you're good about, you know, naming your tasks something useful, then away you go. Okay. So now that we have OhmyZSH installed, I think we're going to run into a problem, but let's demonstrate it. Ansible playbook, tags, and then can I get to the end? Oh, I got keyword issues. Symlinks. That's because, try that again. Hey, it worked. So now I have my PyTheme installed. Awesome. Okay, I didn't run into an issue. So we have that. We have our dot files installed. Why don't we, let's set ZSH now as the default shell. Now we got our dot files. Let's do, no. Don't mess with me on the indents. Okay. Alright. Name set ZSH as default shell. And then we're going to use the user module. The user that I have, actually I'm going to set we're going to specify a variable here. First I'm going to set a mark in Vim. A mark is just like a bookmark, and you use that with M and then any letter. So MA is what I just hit. We're going to go to the top of the file so you can see these three variables that I specified: dot files, homedir, and home user. Those are arbitrarily named. They're not special Ansible parameters. They're under the vars entry. And so I specified dot files, I specified homedir, and the home user. Okay, so those are important because that'll provide context. Now jump back to my mark, which is apostrophe A, and then letter, and here I am back at my mark. Okay, so we have the user module, and then we are going to name. We're gonna screw this all up is what we're gonna do, because it is Vim. It wouldn't be Vim without some fun stuff happening, some accidental keystrokes. All right, so we're going to set the name of our user is going to be home user. Set no HL search. Yeah. Set the name of our user to home user. Once again, I've gone over this a few times on various streams. However, it is important. And anytime you are in a YAML file, Ansible will treat basically everything in the YAML file as a string, all parameters as strings. Okay, so if I have in the very special case of when I want to use a variable instead of actually a hard-coded string, you use the double mustache here, the double curly brace. Okay, when I am beginning an Ansible variable with when I'm beginning a parameter, I'm filling out a parameter, and I want to have a variable at the beginning, I have to wrap it in quotes. I'll do an example. Let's name, and then foo, and let's use path, and then home home. Okay, both of these are valid, and it's important to understand this. Okay, when you are specifying a value, and in the value is a variable, and the variable does not come at the beginning, you do not wrap it in quotes. This is important. This is the other major gotcha that will screw you up. You'll get an oddball error. Okay, when you begin when you begin the string with a variable, you must wrap it in quotes. Okay, so something like home user, something like this is also valid. Okay, very important. Hopefully that makes sense. That can be a little confusing. So we got our user, which in this case is just going to expand to JSON. Okay, and then we're going to specify the shell parameter to bin zsh, and then we always set tags every single time. We're going to set this to zsh, and then we're going to rerun our playbook with the zsh shell. Okay. So now ZSH is installed, or ZSH is installed. ZSH is set to our default. Okay, so let's look at our ZSH RC file, which is symlinked. Okay, so I'm making some path changes here. I'm setting up a bind key, exporting some stuff, some various. This is for Python environments. Okay. Setting ZSH syntax highlight. I'm not sure if I installed that or not. Specifying my aliases. Somebody asked me why am I using bash aliases instead of ZSH aliases and as a file name, and I was like, that's a great question. And the reason being is because I will deploy my bash aliases file to systems where ZSH is not installed, or I don't have it installed yet. And so, in case you were wondering. But that's why I keep it bash aliases. It doesn't really matter as long as you're sourcing it. Personal aliases, this is stuff that I obviously don't put out on Git. And then we're specifying some options for FD, which is a find utility, because if you have never used FZF before, it is an absolute game changer and you must use it. FZF has been one of the best terminal improvements I have ever come across. And we'll actually install it with this build if we haven't already. Taking care of Go crap, and then just a few other things for Python environments and such. So we have our file, which means I should be able to exit, reconnect. Command not found pipe. Okay, I'm on my Arch VM. Okay, I can't tell because the terminal or the prompt is exactly the same as is on my main machine. So let's actually change that. On my ZSH, and then it's in themes, py theme. Okay, ton of errors now because I have my vimrc file, or yeah, my init.vim file deployed. Oh, that file doesn't exist. Where did I copy it? Let me see. Oh, my ZSH themes, py dot. Why does that not exist? Did I not copy it over? I thought for sure I did. My ZSH themes. Alright, so in copying over my alias file, I've also foobarred a ton of stuff. So now we get to actually go through the process of fixing it. For example, instead of ls, I have ls aliased to exa. If you've never used exa, you're about to see it. Let's add exa Is it not usually in home? Oh, the theme file? No. In the case of Arch, theme files go to USR share on my ZSH. But let's install Exa. Should just take a second. Ansible playbook, Arch build, and then I added Exa here, and now I'm just going to do Pacman for the tags. Should just take a moment. Hopefully. Yeah, that one threw me for a loop too, because you're probably coming from the Ubuntu world or the Debian world. Okay. So we have our core Pacman packages installed, and we have Exa installed. So now if we type ls, this is what Exa looks like, which I think is pretty cool. Not only that, but if you go into a Git repo, there's like Git modules and stuff like that. So it's very similar to another utility called K, which is actually pretty awesome. So it has those kind of modules and things like that. But Exa is pretty nice. They actual, welcome. Yes, you're late, but it's okay. Okay, we're still building out stuff. I'm now actually back in my Arch VM. Starting to look good. I think it's starting to look good. See nice pretty colors and all that kind of stuff. So, but I do want to change that prompt, and I'm not sure why my theme file said it got copied. User share cd user share on my ZSH. Okay. There's themes, and there's Pi. Yet nothing has come over. So did I copy an empty file from my dot files? No, I didn't. That theme got loaded because I'm looking at the prompt. My ZSH Pi theme. Yep, that's correct. Where are you? The NeoVim? No. NeoVim did not get foobarred. What got... You know what? Yes, I'm using too much to split the screen. The reason why NeoVim looks the way it looks is because the init .vim file, all the plugins, none of that has been installed. So it looks like garbage right now. However, why don't we do this? Let's come back to the prompt, because I want to actually configure init.vim and get all the Vim plugins installed so I get my nice full Vim environment. Okay? Oops. Let's do that. And there's some code that we're going to do because in the init.vim file, config nvim init.vim. Let's take a look at that. Okay. I mean the link vim, did it get deleted? So it only responds to nvim now. The alias is there. So when I type vim, that is actually taking me to nvim. And all the errors are plugin errors. So the alias from vim to nvim is working, but NeoVim is essentially busted right now because of my init.vim file, because I have all of these plugins that are listed, but they're not actually installed. And so we're going to do that using Ansible. Let's get out of this. Okay. And so I got all these amazing plugins. I want to make use of them, but here's the thing. In order to install plugins right now, I'm using Vmplug, and I don't have Vmplug installed. Okay, which means I got to copy it down and that kind of stuff. So let's actually install Vmplug. Okay. Before we install Vmplug, you could open the themes files with Nano. Get the band hammer ready. Do I even have Nano on this thing? Does it even come installed? Oh. There we go. Problem solved. Alright. we got ZSH. Let's actually get our Vim environment set up. Okay, we use Vim because it's the best. Let's check for Vmplug first. Okay. To check for something, all we need to do is we're going to use the stat module, and we're going to look for a path. That path is, we've got a variable, so we're kicking it off with double quotes, home-dir, local, share, and then site autoload plug.vim. Okay, when you use the stat plugin, you have to set the output into a variable. So we're going to use the register parameter, and then we're going to register this into the plug exists variable. I chose plug exists arbitrarily. Okay. In order to check for this, we have to make sure that we are not sudo to root, because otherwise it will look in the root.config directory, and we don't want that. And so actually, that's not technically true because home.dir is set to home JSON. So we should be okay, but best practice here is let's set become user to home user, and then tags, we'll call this Vim. Let's take that indent out once so we didn't mess stuff up. And actually, these two are going to get de-indented as well, because those are parameters. Actually, register should be correct, and become user, no, that should be correct. Let's try this. Maybe I'm wrong here. Ansible playbook, arch build tags Vim. Okay, unsupported parameters become. All right. So these two need to come out. By the way, fast, easy way to do indents in Vim is just a double directional, so like a double greater than sign or a double less than sign. So if I want to take these next three lines and indent them once, 3 double greater than, and back to 3 double less than. Handy tip. Try it again. Okay, cool. So it checks for Vmplug, and we obviously know that Vmplug does not exist, but we want the check in there because we don't always want to be bringing it down. Okay, so now that we have that check there, we're going to install Vmplug, and we're going to run a pretty crazy shell command. Okay, so let's actually have a look at the browser real quick. Install Vmplug. Minimalist Vmplug manager. Okay. I think we're gonna, let's make use of the NeoVim for Linux. Okay. sh-c. I hate this stuff. I hate it. I can't stand it when they're like, yeah, just run this script directly from the internet. Oh. Okay. These are all commented. This really is best practice. So, and quite honestly, this is something that I am in the habit of doing, and I'm scanning briefly to look for horrible things like IP addresses and some binary nastiness. I'm not seeing any. The good news is that I have looked through this entire block of code before, and so I'm not going to totally bore you guys with all the details, but suffice it to say, before you run stuff directly off the internet, look at it and make double sure that you're not just installing, giving somebody access to your computer. So I have installed Vmplug before, and I know it's generally safe. Code.bash is the future. Yeah, I know, man. It totally is. We live in a world where people just like, install this? Yeah, install it, sure. Okay, so I'm just going to grab that command, and we're on a VM, right? So it's totally safe. Nobody can get to my regular network from a VM. Or something along those lines. And let's paste that in. Okay. I don't know how Ansible is going to download and run the precompiled binaries. Right, that's way safer. Totally. What could possibly go wrong with downloading rogue binaries? Yeah. Oh man, nah. You're gonna get me going on another Golang diatribe. Let's not do that. I honestly don't know how Ansible is going to respond with the line break, the bash line break, actually creating a line break in the file. I have no clue what Ansible is going to do, so let's find out. Become user home user. Now, here is when we make use of our variable registration. Become user, and we're only going to run this using when plug exists stat exists equals false. Okay? So when this variable has a stat property, that stat property is exists, and when that is set to the Boolean false, that's only when this runs. Now, this is fine in Ansible world. However, do not make the mistake, and I've said this before on this stream, Ansible and YAML specifically is not a programming language. You got to get your mind around that. Ansible is not a programming language. YAML is not a programming language. It's simply just a framework that takes a huge config file is really what we're building. If you think of a YAML file as a config, or a playbook as a config file, this will make it a whole lot easier. You can do these kinds of tricks. However, if you start, if you start longing for, crazy conditional logic, or nested combinations of ands and ors and stuff like that, write Python. Just do a easy Python wrapper, because, I'm a big fan of using the right tool for the job. So in this case, we're still in happy territory when it comes to YAML. But understand that this isn't a programming language, so if we go too far beyond these constructs and you're like, I want this logic and not that logic, you're using the wrong tool. Don't fight it, just move on, use the right tool. Tags, we're going to call it, we're still in Vim. Let's also add the install tag, which we have as well for other utilities, and then let's just do Vmplug. No idea what, actually, this is going to fail. Does anyone know why this is going to fail? I'll give you a second to figure it out. This is good times. Why'd that fail? Error-free coding? No. It's error intentional coding. It failed because down here I ran tags Vmplug. However, the check for the Vmplug, which this task is reliant on, is only part of the Vim tag. And so that code did not run, which means plug exists did not get set, which is why you see conditional check failed. Plug exists is undefined. Okay, so what do we do here? Let's get rid of that. Okay, now, and also, if I'm gonna have a and this is where I have to be careful how I set my tags. If I'm going to have the install tag here, then I really should have it up here, because essentially what I have is a dependency. And I have to be careful. You gotta be careful with conditional dependencies like this. Okay? So let's run that again. Okay. So in this case, it bombed using bad illegal format or missing URL. Is it this? Is it this? I wonder if it's this. Oops. Creators. It might be that. Let's try that. was that. Okay, so now I know. Today I learned Ansible does not play nice with bash new lines or new line characters. Okay, but now we have Vmplug installed. Cool. That step is done. Now we can actually install our Vim plugins. Yeah, Vim plugins. Okay. Let's do command and Vim. By the way, difference between command and shell. They essentially run shell commands. However, the shell, according to Ansible's best practice, the command module is preferred to the shell module. Not entirely sure why. However, the one thing that the shell module has going for it is that the shell module can pipe. So you can take output, like if you wrap the whole thing in quotes and you can like pipe one thing to another thing, you can do that in the shell module. You can't use pipe or redirection in the command module. So TLDR, use command whenever possible, but if you need to pipe or redirect output, use the shell module. Okay. -es. I do have this command in another screen because I'm cheating a little bit. Source. Let's source the file. And then let's run plug install plus QA. Essentially just a quiet install. Okay. We're going to become user, or I could just copy and paste like that. That was just YY and then P, YY, P. Alright, and then there is something that frustrates me about this particular way of doing it. I've never solved it. But here's what happens. When I run this command, I can take this exact command right now, swap out the home variable, run it on the command line, and it'll run just fine. No errors, no nothing. It runs fine. I've done this several times. But when I run into Ansible, it throws an error. And it's an error that I've never quite been able to track down. Okay? Here's the issue. It installs everything just fine. And so I don't know if I'm hitting a bug in Ansible that has to do with like NVim or NeoVim output or something like that. But this is, you guys all just turn away and don't look for a second. Ignore errors. True. And that's how we solve this. Okay. All right. Let's actually install or see if we can install our init.vim file. Like I said, I told you look away. I warned you. I'm a red teamer first and DevOps second. Actually, more like a distant fifth or sixth. So y'all just have to deal. Alright, so stuff's installing. Go, baby, go. Hey, just out of curiosity, nobody's complained about the music. Can you still hear it? Can anyone hear it? I'm gonna assume so. You can't hear it? Dang it. It's even playing. Hold on, I'll turn it up. Alright, I turned it up. Can you hear it now? Still nothing. Alright. No, bummer. I had it going last week and apparently I couldn't get it dialed in. You can probably, if you listen carefully, you can probably hear the Star Trek Red Alert sound going in the background. They're on season, I think they just started season 4. The Borg they just got Captain Picard back from the Borg, and Crusher was able to get all the implants out and get him back to his old self. I think it's season 4, episode like 1 or 2. Yeah. Anyways, it's the next generation, which is really the only generation. So it's kind of like Vim, like nothing else really matters. So Anyways, so, okay, yeah, this is what I get. Non-zero return code. I really don't want to track this down. This is just pure, unadulterated laziness on my part. Never watched The Next Generation, more of a Voyager. I mean, you know, we all have our opportunities for growth. That's really all I can say. We all have our room for improvements. I'm just kidding. You watch whatever Star Trek you want. But seriously, TNG's the best. So, I don't know why this aired, but if I run Vim now, bam. I now have no errors, and it's looking pretty good. So let's actually get our nice color scheme going. I had some kind of shady color scheme here, so let's exit this. And now that I got a real Vim going, I don't even remember what color scheme I had. Probably Groove Box. Oh no! Oh, this is my One Dark. Yeah, this is my One Dark color scheme, which I really like. I'm a big fan of One Dark. Okay, starting to come together. The CR, how's it going? Welcome. You just missed all the fun. We just installed all of our Vim plugins. It's actually looking pretty good. And I know that there's people out there typing along with me. However, I am going, as soon as the stream is done, I'm not going to bore you guys with this, but as soon as the stream is done, I'm going to get all this committed up to a GitHub repo so you guys will have access to the full playbook. So, my bad, not doing that earlier. Okay, so we got that installed. Let's install, we're actually kind of coming near the end, I should say. Unless you guys want to go down the road of doing a full GUI installation in Arch. But move and recover from DB recovery mode. Yeah, glad you're here too. Let's install some just a quality of life improvement, which is VirtualBox tools. Can you bundle in a Chrome Bash installer? Oh man. Yes, probably. There's so in the Unix porn community, like where you just like download somebody's rice and you get this beautiful Unix. Or Linux desktop. That's all it is. It's all curl bash, and it just drives me. I lose my mind. It's like getting like a bunch of mosquito bugs. I hate that stuff. Precompiled. All right, it's not enough of the trolls. I can only handle so much. I'm gonna start itching. Installing VirtualBox tools. This is important, obviously. Pacman, name, VirtualBox, guest, utils, state, present, and then tags, VirtualBox. And what we can do here is we can do something like, what if you're not running VirtualBox? Well, now what? So let's set a mark right here, MA, and let's add a new variable. Is VirtualBox true? And so that way we can do when is VirtualBox, just like that. So that's just like another conditional, just like if variable evaluates, then there you go. Applying automod, stream to auto ban. Anyone who types precompiled binary. Well, it's a good thing I don't have it enabled because you would just ban yourself. But I don't know what automod is, so I'll have to check into that. So I'm like a total Twitch noob. It's a lot of fun, and quite honestly, I do it just because I love, teaching, I guess. But seriously, I love hanging out with you guys. It's just a lot of fun. I wish I could hear you. Like I wish it was like a classroom environment. I don't know. Maybe we'll do a Zoom call. I don't want to do a Zoom call. I'm not doing a Zoom call. Forget Zoom. I'm not doing that. But, like I don't know. It's fun to hang out. Alias prepackaged. Enabling VirtualBox service. Once we got VirtualBox tools installed, we got to start the service. Systemd name vbox service.service. We're going to set that to enabled yes tags VirtualBox, and then when is VirtualBox. Save that. Fire that off. Ansible playbook. What's it called? Arch build. Oh yeah. Tags, and then VirtualBox. Boom. Easy peasy. And now it's always there forever. Or until I encounter a swap file. Alright. Okay, so at this point, we have a pretty well functional virtual machine. So we can go one couple directions with this, and this is probably where we'll end for tonight. Unless, yeah, I don't know. It's been an hour and a half. It's been a good run. So we can either go down the road of like doing a full GUI install, so like OpenBox or something like that. If you want to see various desktop environments or stuff like that, that's something you can do on your own. It's super easy to do. Like if you just want to install various desktop environments, you would just do it in the Pacman install. So for example, I use i3 gaps. That's the one I use and I copy over my i3 file, and away you go. But there are so many good either desktop environments or tiling window managers or things like that. I prefer tiling window managers because I like seeing all my stuff. So I've showed this several times. This is what my full desktop looks like. You see chat and OBS and my cheat sheet and stuff like that. But this is how I prefer it. This is what I prefer to see. I don't like once I move to a tiling window manager, I never look back, and I hate it now when I encounter like a floating window manager. Like if I bring up preferences or something like that, like it's in the middle of the screen, and I can still drag stuff around, but it kind of drives me nuts. So we can either go down the road of installing a GUI or a desktop environment or things like that, or we can just call this good and leave this as a a light machine. And then tiling window manager is something we want to do for other environments. I have to muck around with. So totally hear you. It's one of those things where it takes some getting used to. The two tiling window managers that I would probably recommend is either i3 to get started with, because the i3 config file is nice and straightforward. Don't let it scare you. I think I have it. Config i3. Yeah. So this is my i3 config file. I mean, you can see like from just the syntax of it, it's not particularly difficult. Like I said, and my config file is out of my dot file. So if you want a place to get started, you can do that. The other one that I would recommend is Awesome Window Manager, which is I got a coworker who's in love with that. I thought about switching to Awesome Window Manager. The tricky thing about Awesome is that instead of a standard config file like what you're seeing here, the config file is all in Lua, so it's basically a huge Lua script. If you want to use Python as your config, for a tiling window manager, you can use Qtile. If you wanted to use what's the other thing? Xmonad is another super popular one, and that's in Haskell. So I mean, you can not only can you pick up a tiling window manager, you can learn a new programming language, because that might need to happen. So depending on what you do. I've wanted to get into Lua scripting for a while, and so I might give Awesome a shot. But otherwise, for a simple config, go with i3. It's simple, it's straightforward, it's really well documented, and it does the job. And quite honestly, it just works. And it's one of those things where you get your config dialed in. You don't really have to monkey with it much. At least I don't. So, but anyways, so that's really it. In terms of building out a virtual machine that works and works well. You can go full crazy in terms of like if we want to go down some crazy roads in terms of security, like we can install FireJail and sandbox every single process that runs. That's been on my to-do list to play with for a while. But that might wrap up the Ansible stuff, at least for the virtual machine. And then maybe in a couple weeks, I'm not going to be streaming next week. I'm actually going to be doing a bit of traveling, so I will not be doing any streams at all next week. But the following week, we could probably get into coding some Python or something along those lines. hang on just a second. I got kids getting squirrely. Testing 1, 2. Hey guys, dial it down, please. Thank you. Anyways, so so I mean, we go down that road as well as you want. So at this point, I'll leave it up to the vote. If you guys want to actually build out a desktop environment and see a desktop environment in action, we can do that. The only downside is that in VirtualBox, desktop environments, especially tiling window managers, are greatly dependent on the keyboard. That makes it difficult for things like VirtualBox because doing the key translation into the VM is generally just painful. So can be done, but quite honestly, at this point, I think we might call this project completed and move on to actually some Python code. So one thing that I was going to do from a Python perspective is build out a utility that I wrote for work, which does auto brute forcing. Has some really handy switches for things like time control and stuff like that, so you don't lock out accounts. Put some AC in the attic. Yeah, right. Yeah, my attic is like 1,000 degrees right now, and my air conditioning is not on, so I'm already starting to break a sweat. Testing. Guys, you need to be quiet. Kids are getting crazy. So, anyways, yeah, brute force script will be fun. So it's one to use all the time. I built out a lab environment to help, and I might tweak it to actually use. So it supports NTLM, brute force authentication for like NTLM-based websites. So I think we might actually build that out because that's actually something that I'll do get commits on the fly. So you'll get all the code as we build it out, and that'll be a lot of fun because now you're getting into really some fun programming practices and tiling. Yeah. I figured you guys would say that. So this was fun, and I love Ansible, and I love infrastructure, and I love DevOps stuff. So, and I think this is a good intro to live stream because it's something that I'm comfortable with. But I'll tell you what, with Python and stuff like that, you're gonna watch, Jason screw things up like just totally on the fly, and maybe we'll solve things together. So, but otherwise, I think we'll call it good. I will throw this Ansible playbook out into the GitHub repo so you guys all have access to it, so you can all build out your own VM and things like that. Error-free coding, right? I feel like I'm pretty sure I said that like on the very first stream. That's how I code is error-free coding. It's not true. No swap left behind. Oh man, right here, my friend. No swap left behind. Dang it. That's savage, man. Oh, it's killer. All right. On that note, we're gonna pull it to a close tonight. You guys have been great. Thanks for hanging out. It's always a ton of fun, and I appreciate the back and forth. Chat keeps it lively. So I'm pretty sure Dave signed off, unless he's like straight up lurking, which would be totally creepy. But yeah, Randall. Hey, I didn't even know you were on. Thanks for speaking up. So I never know who's on and who isn't. So thanks for saying something. And feel free to hit me up on Twitter. I do go by Curious Jack, even though this Jack's not my name on Twitter. So feel free to DM me and just say hi. I love hanging out. So, all right. You guys all take care. Have a great couple weeks. Again, I'm not on next week. So we'll see you in 2 weeks on Wednesday. Later.